Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums, and today I will actually be doing something a little bit different. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but we do have the Leo new moon this week on Wednesday, and it will also be a solar eclipse. So let's kind of see what the cards have to say for this transit and this now going to be 18-month cycle as we kind of move through these energies. So it's been, I don't know, I probably haven't done one of these in a couple of years, but I'm kind of feeling a little bit inspired. I wanted to use the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann. This is the indie version of the deck. I don't have the original Ten of Swords, but that's okay. So let's kind of get into it and see what we should expect for this upcoming lunation this week and maybe things to kind of keep in mind. So I'm just going to kind of pull cards, let it vibe out. Let's see what it is. So first card, we have the Hermit reversed. We have the Nine of Pentacles, the Knight of Cups, and the Knight of Pentacles. And then let's see if we can kind of get a maybe like what don't we recognize right now kind of vibe. The Seven of Swords, and then I guess what to expect. No, here, the Five of Swords. Okay. Well, that'll be interesting and fun and intense. We'll start with these guys first and kind of see how it goes. So, the very first card that came up was the Hermit reversed. Now, to me, the Hermit is typically a card of like seeking out our own internal wisdom. And with this being reversed is that maybe this lesson will be a little bit more internalized. Maybe we just don't feel super prepared to put ourselves out there. Maybe we've been holding back in some way. Maybe we're not listening to that inner voice. We have maybe been distracted by the external, and we're just wanting to kind of focus on what we know, what we can do, what we've been doing, how we've been doing things. And so I think that this upcoming eclipse season will be one that will really have us look within ourselves and learn how that intuitive voice really speaks to us. Maybe there is something that we have been neglecting within ourselves, whether it's like a story that we've known, something that we have been feeling and picking up on, but maybe we're like, well, no, that doesn't really make sense for like what I'm trying to do now and how I want to move forward. And I know that it can be quite a bit of a challenge whenever we feel like we have been working towards a particular goal and things haven't really turned out the way that we had anticipated. Maybe we have invested a lot of our own time, our efforts, our resources into a particular goal, and we're not really seeing things move in the direction of what we want. Now, I think the other lesson that can kind of come up with the Hermit reverse, especially with this, is that we're going to be moving into Virgo season here pretty soon. And the Hermit is the card of Virgo. And I think that there may be this kind of energy that can just feel a little bit out of sync. I think because of all of the other planets that we have going on. We have like Pluto retrograde, we'll have like Saturn retrograde. We're going to have all of these different things happening currently that can kind of make it feel like it's not really that like infused with the energy of Virgo, because now we have Venus in Libra, we have Mars moved into Cancer. So like we're not really getting the sense of a lot of things being in Virgo at the same time as the sun. And I think with this Leo new moon eclipse, we're going to kind of have this sense of I'm just having to deal with things one at a time instead of being able to work with things in conjunction and having kind of like a lot of this harmonious energy working alongside what I'm trying to do. The eclipses come in 18-month cycles. This is going to be on the Aquarius and Leo axis. So this new moon will be on the Leo South Node. And it's going to be like the first time since like 2008, 2009. I'd have to look at my notes again. So it's been a while since we've had this kind of exact sort of energy again. And so we may be looking back at some of the lessons that we've learned since then, what we've experienced since then, maybe even reflecting on the last kind of the Leo and Aquarius axis, which means that the North Node was in Leo. And this could also be affecting like the Pluto and Leo generation, which is going to be a lot of like the greatest generation or whatever they're called, the silent generation. I don't know. I always get kind of confused. It's like, I know boomers are like a particular age. I was like, but I don't always remember what's the generation that is called, the one that came before them. So we're going to be seeing a lot of this kind of energy where we're having to maybe reflect a little bit more than we're used to. And it may not be what we're trying to do. Now, the Nine of Pentacles, I kind of feel like this is going to be just an overall message of maybe what we can focus on. I think this is kind of like the lessons coming up. This is what we can focus on. I think with the Nine of Pentacles, we're being reminded that it is okay to be a little bit more present in where our efforts have gone and what it is that we've been working towards. I think for many of us, we don't always take the time out to kind of reflect on what have I been doing, what has gone right, what am I kind of setting up for the future, what does this mean for me in terms of like what is building solidity, stability, like what is building something that feels home to me, that feels like home, that feels, grounded and rooted and centered for me and my personal experiences. So I think with the Nine of Pentacles, we're kind of getting a little bit of this like energy of like our dedicated efforts and our, well-deserved reward is coming because we've been doing what we need to do. Now, I know the nines can kind of be seen as this energy of like, this is everything you've been doing. And this is where you start to kind of like reap the benefits of like your dedication, your hard work, and everything you've been doing. But when I think of the Pentacles suit, I think it's not just earth. It is the body. It is our behaviors. It is, our home, our health. And so maybe this is going to be a time where with this Leo new moon solar eclipse, we're going to kind of get this opportunity to revisit and look at what have I been doing that feels authentic to me. Because when I think of Leo, I think it's very much this energy of like the self, ego. And ego is not a bad thing. I know some people look at it as like bad. It's not. We need ego to live. It's kind of what keeps us alive. And I think it's also this kind of energy of, authenticity and warmth and joy. And I think that this Nine of Pentacles is kind of showing up and saying like, hey, this is what we can focus on. The things that we have been working towards, the goals that maybe we're trying to meet, the ways in which we're trying to kind of show up for ourselves. And, just kind of looking at what have we been doing so far this year? Because if I think of just the timing of Pentacles, to me, this is not what everyone believes, but to me, it's like months. It's like 9 months. So we're moving into September, right? So we're coming towards September. It's like, what have we been working towards? Maybe we'll start to really see the fruits of our labor, be able to reap what we've sown in September. So we're going to start to see a lot of these things kind of come together and to start to make a little bit more sense for us as individuals. Now, maybe I was trying to think of like what I was thinking of when I was pulling these. I think this is kind of like the overall energy, what we can focus on. I think that this is going to be more of the energy we can kind of call in. So I think that the Knight of Cups is kind of asking us to look at what sort of intuitive like things are we chasing after? What sort of energy do we feel kind of aligned with at this time? the Knights to me are very much this energy. They have their horse, right? So they are movement and travel and messages and like what you're willing to kind of fight for. And Cups is very much the feelings, our intuition, our creativity, psychic abilities, our relationships, our connections. And so I think with the Knight of Cups kind of saying like what we can kind of draw from is maybe we need to look at intuitively, what are we feeling? What are we willing to fight for? What do we feel is like the thing that makes us feel connected and creative and intuitive? So I think that while it may feel like there's just a bunch of different things kind of happening right now that feel really out of our control or out of like our hands, this Knight is kind of saying like, okay, this is about like decluttering that external noise and getting clear on, you know, what feels good for you, what feels in alignment for you, what is it that you love about what's going on here, what sort of messages do you need to kind of pay attention to. So I know for many people, like we do different things for like the different moon cycles and stuff like that, or moon phases and moon cycles. And so I think for many of us, we're at a point where maybe we're wanting to kind of tune in a little bit more into the like the liminal and trying to kind of figure out like, what is this for? Like, what am I doing? What does this mean? I know for me personally, that's kind of what I've been trying to focus on, because this like Leo Aquarius axis, or the Aquarius Leo axis, is going to be hitting my descendant and my ascendant. So I have this kind of energy of like, I'm trying to figure out like, what does it mean? Do I really want to like connect with this? And then we have Mars in Cancer and Venus in Libra. And so we have this kind of energy that's kind of like pushing us to kind of move out of different things that maybe we no longer value, or things that really don't align for us in different ways, because Mars in Cancer can be seen as like passive aggressive. It can just be seen as it's uncomfortable there. Mars is not really at home in Cancer. And so we may see a lot of this kind of crabby energy at this time, because we're feeling it. We're feeling the sense of like, I'm done. I don't want to keep dealing with the same issue over and over again. So be mindful of passive aggressiveness. Be aware of, you know, maybe where you're not really dealing with things head on. Because I know sometimes with Venus and Libra, we want to focus on just like the beauty and the things that we love and what we value, and being just fair and balanced and harmonious, that we tend to kind of overlook some of these other energies that, you know, are also equally significant and important, because we do have Uranus in Gemini. We also have Pluto in Aquarius. I think it's retrograde. We have Saturn in Aries, which I think is also retrograde, I believe. We also have Neptune in Aries. So we have a lot of these things that are kind of like in cardinal signs. And then we also have things that are like in air. And so we have a little bit of this like tension going on with the fire of like the sun and Mercury. And, you know, I think we just had Mercury in Leo, I believe, or Mercury in Virgo. So we have a lot of this like energy that's going to be, in a lot of ways, feel like we're being kind of urged and pushed to kind of figure out like, what am I doing? How am I showing up? And what does it mean? Now with the Knight of Pentacles here, I think like this is going to be more of what we need to confront within ourselves. I feel like this is kind of like the energy we can kind of like draw inspiration from. And then this is more like what we need to do within ourselves. And Knights, again, this is going to be this kind of energy of like momentum and kind of moving and trying to receive a message. Like Pentacles are going to be, again, the body, health, money, finances, maybe even like our physical behaviors, our home, our space. And so maybe there's something that needs to change in all of these things. Maybe we need to take a look at our budgeting. Maybe you've been going a little bit ham. I know for me, I've been kind of home and I've just been like, you know what, I'm going to spoil myself. I'm going to buy myself whatever I want, and I'll deal with the consequences of those decisions later. And it's an unfortunate thing, because because now I've kind of realized like, oh man, I've been like doing that a lot. And I think for many of us, we're kind of feeling this sense of like, we're needing to like budget down. We're needed to be very realistic. And I know with like the current economy, we're seeing a lot of this like energy that doesn't really allow as much flow as we would like. And so for many of us, we're trying to find ways to save money. Maybe we have been like kind of not hoarding, but maybe like kind of keeping to ourselves, not doing as much. I have heard that a lot from small business owners. They're like, there's just not as much traffic. There's not as many people coming out. There's not as many people like spending money because again, it's like, I feel for many of us, like we just don't have it. It's just not around. It's not there. And I think with this Knight of Pentacles, maybe we're looking at how much control we have over that aspect of our lives, whether it's finances, whether it's our physical home, whether it's our physical health, whether it's, you know, our behaviors and things like that. So we may be looking at, you know, what have I been doing? Does it make sense for what I'm trying to do? And if not, what do I need to shift and change so that these things don't feel so out of sync with who I am and what I'm trying to do? So I think with the Knight of Pentacles here, we're kind of given this opportunity to take some time out to look and reflect at maybe the things that we have been pushing towards and the things that we felt like we were doing aren't really in alignment with what has been going on. And so maybe we need to kind of take a step back. I think that is the beauty of having these eclipses, because the last couple of eclipses have been in Pisces and Virgo. We're gonna have the last Pisces eclipse at the end of August. And so I think it's asking us to kind of tie up some of these loose ends about what we believe is in alignment with what we want and what we desire. Because I feel like with eclipses, they bring this kind of unexpected energy. It can highlight a lot of things that maybe haven't been working. It can kind of urge a lot of shifts and transformation, and you know, a lot of these challenges may arise during these, you know, eclipses, because it's bringing this energy in those particular houses in your chart, or within like those signs that you may have, whatever is going on in your personal chart, and can kind of allow us to look at what needs to shift here, what hasn't been working. And for some of us, it can light up particular houses in our chart that really demand a lot of change externally. And some are going to be more of like this internalization of this energy that is requiring a lot of shifts within the self. So pay attention, maybe look at, you know, where Pisces and Virgo are in your natal chart. What houses do they rule? Do you have any planets or any asteroids, anything significant like that going on in those houses, and see what needs to kind of shift, or what shifts have been made and what you can do to kind of, not say like close it out, but maybe just come to the understanding. Because when I think of Pisces, I think it's very much this like energy of like, I have an understanding of everything because I am all things, being that it's the last sign and it's kind of like boundless. There's no boundary there. There's like, it dissolves things in its own way. And so I feel like it's this kind of energy of like, okay, we got to kind of tune into this a little bit more. So I think with this Knight of Pentacles, we're kind of given this energy of like, all right, what have we been working towards? And does it make sense for like the message of what we're trying to do with our lives and what we want for ourselves? Now, I forgot what I had said for this. I think it was like what to expect, or yeah, maybe what to expect. The Seven of Swords. This is one of these cards that like I absolutely get irritated whenever I see it, because it's a card of secrets, and who likes that? I know I don't. It's a card of this sneakiness, this kind of just like intentional harm. And it's mental, right? It's like this mental energy. It's the mind. It is lies. It is, you know, uncovering the truth. It is, you know, looking at who has been dishonest around you and who's been trying to just sneak around you. So I know for many of us, we're kind of seeing a lot of this kind of play out on the grand stage of life and in the world. Society just seems to be, I don't want to say crumbling, but I think a lot of these things are like a lot of the ways in which governing agencies and people in power have really just made it much more challenging, tried to really trap us into systems that obviously will not work long term and are not in harmony with, you know, Mother Earth and life on Earth as we've known it. I think a lot of us are starting to see some truth to things, and so it may feel like there's this like discovery, so to speak, of like, okay, I am uncovering what is no longer true. I am uncovering what is not really what has been shown to me and how it's been shown to me. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this like revelation. Maybe we're going to start seeing who hasn't been honest with us, why they haven't been honest with us. Maybe we'll actually start to see a little bit of clarity as to what we want to believe moving forward. And I think a lot of us are kind of like in this like phase of like our beliefs are changing. Maybe we feel like we're trying to grow how we view things, and we're starting to see things for like what they really are. And I know that that's not always easy. We may feel like some secrets may be coming to the light. We may discover some truths about certain things that can feel very uncomfortable. And I know nobody ever wants to be like I don't have any secrets, or like, oh, I'm like an open book or whatever. But at the end of the day, we all have things that maybe we hold back on, or that we kind of keep to ourselves, either because we're trying to protect somebody else, either because we feel like that's the right thing to do. So we may see a lot of things coming forward of like people being very raw and honest about things. And it's like, we're no longer going to have too many things that are not like visible enough for us to see. So I would like to think that maybe some people will finally kind of like really pay attention to what has been going on. I know for many of us, it's like we're so busy with our own day-to-day lives and our own kind of like things that we have going on in our personal lives that we don't always have the time to kind of like check in and see. And I know with information overload, it can just be very challenging to know what to pay attention to and what makes sense. So I think that this is going to be maybe a time of like a lot of revelations. And I know like there's some people in power that also have a Leo rising. So we may start seeing a lot of this kind of energy of like things just really, you're no longer really going to get away with dishonesty. So if you haven't been honest, or if you've been holding back in some way, I think that this Leo new moon is going to bring a lot of clarity and will not allow us to just kind of skate by the truth. And then finally with, I don't remember what I said I wanted to do for this one. That's what happens whenever I make up spreads. But I'm going to look at this as maybe this is kind of energy to keep in mind. Is the Five of Swords. Now this is going to be very win or lose energy. This is going to be challenges and obstacles and, you know, fights and conflict. But when I think of swords, again, this is going to be that mental energy. It's the mind, it's truth and justice and power. It is going to be our words. It's going to be, you know, what we're thinking about. And I think with the Five of Swords is, I think for a lot of us, we may feel like we don't really know what will come next. And that's the unfortunate thing I think that can come with the eclipses, is that we can kind of feel like, well, we don't really know what I'm going to be doing next. I know for me as a fact, even just like when people ask me what I'm going to be doing in like the next year, I have no idea, because every year has brought its own challenges and obstacles and conflict. So I've had to constantly pivot and change and shift. Even energy, this Five of Swords of like, should I not? It's like this conflict, this like win or lose. And I think we're going to be experiencing a lot of this energy of not really knowing how it's going to look and trying to make the best decision that we can with the information that we have, right? And I think for many of us, we're at this point where we're just not seeing things look as easy and as clear and as open as we would like. And so I think in a lot of ways, we have to be okay with like just being confused. And I know that's not what anybody wants to hear, because like obviously that's no fun for anybody. But I think with this energy, it's kind of saying like, hey, at the end of the day, we just have to do the best that we can with what we have and where we are at. And this Leo new moon, I feel, is going to be very pivotal in our internal kind of self and trying to recognize and realize like what it is that we've been doing, what are we working towards, because for a lot of us, I think we're kind of coming to the conclusion that things are just not going to look the way that we had anticipated. And as someone who is a millennial, I guess an older millennial or whatever, I'm 43. I know for most of my life, all of the things that I was told I should have been doing have never gone to plan. I have not really led the life that I guess I was promised if I would have like done the things that everyone expected of me. And I'm coming to this realization of like, man, I'm not going to have the stability or the knowingness, I guess, of I get to do something for other generations, you know, and to where they can benefit. So I think for many of us, we're kind of coming to this conclusion of like, the world is just not really looking the way that we thought it was going to. And I don't know what changes will come. I think some change will happen, but I think for many of us, we're kind of like, I almost feel like it's like it's like spider thread. It's such a like fine like material. It's so like strong, but then also not at the same time. And so we're kind of like feeling a little bit of like this dance between what we were promised and what we thought we could have and the life that we've been trying to build, and the reality of how life has become and how life has been, and the like way that we're going in so many different avenues, not just politically but also financially, and it's like having this realization of like, shit, all of it is linked together and it sucks. And so I think for many of us, this Leo new moon may have us like look at our identity of ourself and what feels authentic, and we're having this like maybe in a lot of ways, this transformation of the self that can feel very challenging and very scary, because it can feel like maybe I haven't been living in my truth and maybe I haven't been honest with myself. And so I have a lot of internalized conflict, which makes it challenging for me to kind of figure out, you know, what am I willing to fight for that makes sense for me and my behavior, my life, and what sort of things do I really love about what I have had so far, and can kind of build upon that so that I can find the ultimate happiness of what I've been working towards and kind of get my well-deserved reward, so that the internal lessons can feel more in alignment with who I am and what I really desire. So I was going to pull some other cards. I'm kind of feeling like this is a good enough message. I hope you guys enjoy. I know it's been a really long time since I've done one of these. I appreciate you guys being here with me and subscribing. I really hope that the stuff that I share brings you some clarity, some guidance, some things to kind of think about, some things to kind of work on, and allowing you to kind of connect in ways that make a lot of sense for you. I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.